The common three-field system of the Middle Ages. What was it all about? Greetings, dear Manor Lord. I am your diligent advisor, Shinbai. Congratulations on acquiring this fertile new land. I have already seen many farmers working diligently in your fields. This place is bound to become prosperous. Of course, as the Lord of the Manor, you cannot be completely hands-off. I strongly suggest you understand the agricultural basics of this era to better manage your fields. Today, I will introduce the core agricultural technology of the middle to late medieval period, the three-field system. If this is helpful to you, please, along with the happy farmers, praise this great innovation and grant me 2 coins, symbolizing diligence and harvest. The three-field system, as its name suggests, divides the land into 3 units for crop rotation and fallowing. This method, like the 2-field system, may have originated in China's Eastern Zhou dynasty. Both were also widely adopted in Europe during the Middle to late Middle Ages. First, let's briefly look at the 2-field system. The 2-field system divides the manor's farmland into 2 large plots. These plots are then cultivated and fallowed in yearly rotation. For example, in your centaur manor, you can create 2 large fields. Let's call them Field A and Field B. For 1 full year, farmers will cultivate Field A, while Field B is left to fallow. Of course, during the fallow period, they still need to plow the soil on Field B. The fallow land can also be used for grazing livestock, with each acre supporting 1 or 2 animals. The following year, the fields are swapped. Field A is left to fallow, and Field B is cultivated. The advantage of this is that it maintains soil fertility and avoids overcultivation. However, the 2-field system cultivates only half the land each year. Its efficiency was low, which led to the 3-field system. The transition from the 2-field to the 3-field system occurred around the 11th century. Of course, both systems coexisted in Europe throughout the Middle to late Middle Ages. It was adapted based on local soil, water, and climate conditions. Simply put, the 3-field system rotates 3 plots between staple crops, secondary, feed crops, and fallowing. This way, annual land use increased from 1/2 to 2/3. Besides efficiency, while grains like wheat and rye deplete soil nitrogen, legumes planted in the spring actually fix nitrogen, boosting soil fertility. Also, spring-sown crops like oats and peas could thrive with the nourishment of summer rains. Furthermore, the fallow field was not completely wasted. Weeds would grow on the fallow land, so you could open it, along with common pastures, to the manor's farmers for grazing livestock. The livestock manure on the fallow field would further increase soil fertility, a double benefit. If we zoom in closer, just like the 2-field system, each of the 3 large fields in the system was subdivided into many long, narrow strips. Your own domain and your tenant's land were all allocated in these strip units. The reason for dividing into strips was twofold. First, the shape was ideal for plow oxen and draft horses to plow in a straight line. Second, each strip was roughly a day's work for 1 farmer, making labor easier to manage. Each strip was about 0.5 to 1 acre. In manors near the Alps, people used branches to mark the strip boundaries. In other places, the strips had no clear boundaries, which easily led to disputes. You wouldn't want to see this happen on your manor, so make the boundaries as clear as possible. Of course, we can't use fences to enclose every single strip, although that's the easiest way to mark boundaries. The impact on efficiency and ease of access would be great, by the way, because spring-sown oats and legumes were suitable as horse feed, and with the spread of the horse collar and horseshoe in regions using the 3-field system, draft horses were often used instead of oxen for plowing. The spread of the 3-field system was linked to tools like the wheeled heavy plow and advances in the use of fertilizer. It boosted agricultural efficiency and also produced oats and legumes to feed the horses. This fed not only the draft horses, but your prized war horses as well. So, let's return to your centaur manor. Let's follow a farmer named Sam. To see how the system works, we will divide your manor's land into 3 large fields, A, B, and C, with roads in between. The village is best built at the junction of these 3 fields. Beyond the fields are other essentials: woodlands, common pastures, ponds, and rivers. In the autumn of the year 1200, Field A will be planted with winter wheat or rye. All the plots within this field must be planted with the same crop, as required. If our honest farmer, Sam, wants something else, like his favorite onions and cabbage, he must grow them in his own backyard. There, he can also raise some chickens or pigs. Meanwhile, Field C is left fallow. In early 1201, Farmer Sam needs to spread fertilizer on Field B, like compost or marl. Compost is made from rotted straw, weeds, and other plant materials. Marl, however, is difficult to transport to the fields, so it is used less often. I should remind you, my lord, that you have the right to pen the farmer's livestock on your own land, at certain times or all the time, simply to collect their manure. Of course, the animals still belong to them. You only get the manure. In fact, you have a right to all manure on the manor, even any droppings found on the roads. You can collect at any time. So, it's hard for Sam to get manure himself. He must make his own fertilizer from things like wheat stalks. He saves stalks from the previous harvest, using them as bedding in stables over the winter. Then he piles the mixture outside, covers it with soil, and lets it sit. It then becomes fertilizer to spread on the land being prepared. For a farmer like Sam, wheat stalks are extremely valuable. Their price can be up to half that of grain. In the early spring of 1201, Sam will plow Field B. He typically uses a pair of draft horses or oxen with a wheeled heavy plow. After this step is done, Sam puts seeds like oats, peas, lentils, and barley into a seed box, which he hangs around his neck for sowing. Some farmers might use a pocketed apron for sowing, but Sam loves his seed box. He often hums a tune, praising the box around his neck. You should know, beans like peas and broad beans must be dibbled. This means using a small stick to poke a hole in the ground and placing the seed inside. Sam's wife, Rose, is usually in charge of this task. After sowing, the field must be harrowed, otherwise birds will eat the seeds. Harrowing only needs 1 horse to pull. A harrow with a heavy wooden frame. Alternatively, just tie thorn bushes to the horse's tail to cover the soil. Sam's son, 12-year-old little Sam, follows behind the horse, using a slingshot and stones to scare away the birds. During this time, Field C is fallow. Of course, Field C is plowed once in April when the soil is loose, and again in June. Both times, Sam doesn't plow to deep, just enough to clear the large weeds. In May and June, Sam uses a sickle to harvest the winter wheat. Then, he threshes it with a flail. This honest farmer probably doesn't know that this tool in his hands will, in the future, evolve into a weapon. In the East, he only knows that it's heavy, but very useful. Besides his own fields, Sam must also spend 1 or 2 days a week harvesting for you. He usually works with his neighbors, in a group of 5. 4 people reap, and 1 binds the sheaves. This way they can harvest about 2 acres a day, doubling the efficiency of working alone. At this time, they also have to set aside the portion for the church's tithe. And I can tell you, no one enjoys this part. Also, in June, Sam must also use a scythe to cut and make hay for you. He'll receive a bundle of hay as payment. Of course, he also has to do this for his own family. In August 1201, Sam is busy again. He needs to harvest the oats, legumes, and other crops sown in spring. By the autumn of 1201, before October, he will give field C its final plowing. This time, he must plow to fingers deeper than before. Then, field C will be ready for sowing winter wheat or rye. Meanwhile, field B, which grew the oats and legumes, will be left to fallow. This fixed set of rules was often institutionalized by the lord of the manor. Farmers had no right to change this work model. They had to do specific tasks at the proper time and couldn't plant whatever crops they wished. Everything had to be uniformly planned and executed. A farmer like Sam would be busy in the fields all year round. In this era, as long as your domain's soil and climate are suitable, I strongly advise you to implement the three-field system. It will increase your land's yield while also protecting its fertility, achieving sustainable growth. Plus, the spring-sown oats and legumes can be used to feed your fine horses. When the king summons you to war, they will be your most steadfast companions. May you have a bountiful harvest next season. I look forward to seeing you again at the harvest feast.